Okay. So, good afternoon, everybody, from wherever you are. Hopefully having a beautiful day and a beautiful week. We are very grateful that you're joining us today. My name is Diana Parra, and I am an assistant professor at the Brown School at Washington University in San Luis. And we did have some slides that I'm going to start sharing with everybody now. But in the meantime, I just wanted to honor all of our guests today. We do have representatives from several organizations that are working to grow our food in San Luis, that are working to promote healthy eating. And it is for us a blessing that they are doing what they're doing, and we're just so grateful to all of you. So I am going to start sharing my screen. Let me see how I can project these. All right. So we decided to name this webinar The Joys and Challenges of Farming in Today's Climate, Cultivating Health Equity. And the word climate was chosen on purpose because it's not just weather-wise, but also political climate, economic climate, social climate. So we're hoping that today you will hear from all of these representatives from these different organizations on how today's climate and whichever, like, how do you say it, in whatever meaning they want to give it, what it means to them for their work. So we will be hearing from Ariana Blakemore from Asian Healing Root, Erin McFarland from Urban Harvest Stl, Janet Lewis from Rustic Root Sanctuary, Lacey Cagle from City Greens, and Mitchell Pearson from Phi Global Farms. So a little bit about our group. We were formerly known as BREAK, which many of you probably heard. It stands for Building Resilient and Inclusive Communities. We've been working together for this is our 4th year together. It started with a grant from the CDC and the National Chronic Disease Directors Association, and it has transformed. So now we have a new grant that is supporting our work through REACH, racial and ethnic approaches to community health. And this is in partnership with the Integrated Health Network. Some represent here. We have Brittany Dwelly, and Brittany will be talking at the end of the webinar. So the mission from our group, which we are still working on the name, but so far we are calling it Empower and Thriving Communities, or ETC. Our mission is to transform systems and empower thriving communities to have joyful and abundant access to food and health. And you can contact us. Here are both my email and Brittany's email in case you want to learn more about our group or join and collaborate. And this is a picture that we took back in February from all of the members of the group representing several organizations across San Luis. So with further ado, I'm going to introduce our moderator for the day. And so we have the fortune and great luck to have Gabby Cole from Feed and Food Connection. Gabby was born and raised in North San Luis City. She moved to Chicago after high school to study political science and sociology at DePaul University. She later returned and obtained a Master of Science in Nonprofit Management from Von Bonn University. She's currently a nonprofit executive and Feed Food Connection resource development consultant and adjunct. Her passion for human services and overall wellness drove her to research and develop a local wellness nonprofit program established in 2012 for underserved families in the San Luis area. Because of this, she has exceptional leadership experience with racial equity work, creating and leading successful programs, direct practice with vulnerable families, public relations, organizational planning, Her honesty as a community health leader, great educator, and professional work has humbled her viewpoint in working with historically disadvantaged groups of people. She believes that social and community organizations should be mission-driven and stay true to their values. Gabby is a member of the American Public Health Association, the American Heart Association, and has been recognized for several outstanding leadership and fundraising awards. Gabby is married with 2 children and resides in northern San Luis City. So here is Gabby. And I will give you the word now. Take it on.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining us this beautiful evening. I am going to take a little bit of time, 5 minutes, to talk about the structure of our webinar and give a little bit of context about National Farmers Market Week. So this is an important week established by the Farmers Market Coalition that captures the vital role that farmers markets play in our food system. And so for this setting, we wanted to take this opportunity to highlight farmers in general and their experience with farmers markets and all the other spaces in the greater St. Louis region as farmers, gardeners, land stewards, and food justice advocates. I do have a little bit of link to share. I do have a link to share a little bit of information about National Farmers Market Week. And we can maybe share that, provide that later to all the participants. So in terms of the webinar, we will have about an hour to talk through some questions with various community leaders. I hope this can be more of an authentic conversation so we can highlight your voices. I'm super excited. So with that being said, I know we do have one of our panelists needing to hop off. So I just wanted to go ahead and jump right into it. I want to give each panelist about 4 minutes to introduce themselves. And I want to start with you, Ariana.
Okay. Hello.
Yep.
Hey, how's everybody doing today?
We're doing really good. Thank you.
Yes. So I'm introducing myself. That's what I'm doing. Okay.
Yep.
So my name is Ariana Blakemore. I'm a holistic health coach, an herbalist, and a first-generation farmer. So my mission in life is to help cultivate regenerative wellness through communities, specifically the marginalized communities. So to help populate holistic wellness.
I love it. Thank you and welcome. I'm super excited to have this conversation and you be a part of it. I'm going to pass it to Erin McFarland with Urban Harvest Stl.
I am the development coordinator for Urban Harvest Stl. So I'm on the admin side, kind of doing behind the scenes, but my initial engagement with Urban Harvest started on the farms. I was in AmeriCorps Vista with them for a year at both their preschool site and the Rung for Women site. So I have seen the farm work farms and from this side, which has been a cool perspective to kind of get to see the way that things are impacting both sides of farming. Background is in environmental studies, so I come at this with an environmental justice lens. And personally, I believe that urban farming is one of the most holistic solutions to environmental justice issues and to public health issues, of course, as a piece of a larger pie.
Thank you. That was amazing. Thanks for sharing that. And I look forward to learning more and talking with you as well in this conversation. Let's pass it to Janet Lewis with Rustic Root Sanctuary.
Hello, I'm Janet Lewis, Rustic Root Sanctuary. I am actually a 6th-generation farmer. I never really put that together, but when I think about it, my family still owns a 163-acre former plantation in Georgia. So my grandfather farmed that until he died on that land. So yeah, that's what I'm up to. I'm the executive director and the visionary at Rustic Root Sanctuary. I am a farmer, and my main squeeze are the bees.
I love that. Save the bees, save the bees. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
I look forward to having this conversation with you. I'm gonna keep moving. Let's go to Lacey Cagle with City Greens.
Thanks, Gabby. Hi, everyone. I'm Lacey at City Greens Market. I'm executive director there. City Greens is a nonprofit grocery store. So we work with local farmers and local food businesses as much as possible to buy food and then sell it at a reduced cost so that everyone can have access to affordable food. Our mission is to provide access to fresh, quality, and affordable food, particularly produce, to our neighbors, to promote healthy living in the community, to provide space for our members to interact, and then to support farmers as part of our extended community. Both sides of my family, from my grandparents, many generations back, were farmers. And my parents were like, we're getting out of here. So neither of my parents were farmers. So I learned some of the canning and preservation and farming from my grandparents, and a lot of it was lost in a generation, and I had to learn it all over again. So that's really important to me. The background for City Greens, the kind of like worldview we're coming from, is to promote food sovereignty. My background is in sustainability education with a focus on systems thinking. So we're definitely looking at systems and the systems that we can impact and how we are impacted by systems, whether it's food systems and like these very physical systems, or these, social systems or systems of oppression that affect a lot of people in our community. And that food sovereignty background, like thinking about food more as like all the systems that are a part of that, from economic systems to like literally ecosystems, I think is something that a lot of us share. But that's definitely how we're like considering our work at large. And we're not a farmer's market. We're open 6 days a week. So farmers can bring their produce to us, not have to pay a vendor fee. And then we sell that at cost to our neighbors. And we're a membership-based organization. So anybody can shop with us, but members actually get significantly subsidized food. Their memberships are based upon annual income. So it's sliding scale based upon annual income. And really the idea is that we're all giving what we can. It's mutual aid. We're all giving what we can so that we all can have what we need. And we really want to create this community of joy and abundance and access to food, which is so awesome to work with all these other folks here today that are doing that as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that background, a little bit of context about City Greens. Thanks for being here, Lacey. I am going to pass it over to Mitch Pearson for a great introduction with Phi Global Farms. You're on mute. Let's see.
Good evening. My name is Mitchell Pearson. I am a fourth generation farmer. My parents are from Oklahoma and Arkansas. I grew up on a farm right outside of Wichita, Kansas, a 40-acre farm. And it was like within a mile of the city. So I guess I've been urban farming all of my life. We opened the farm up to the community in so many ways. We had a Black Cowboy Saddle Club. We had a 2-acre community garden. I'm an educator. I retired as a 6th grade teacher and art teacher. And along the way, I found out that, food is so important as a cultural product, not a byproduct, but a product. And I'm having a lot of fun and a lot of challenges of working in this space. St. Louis is the last place I ever thought I'd dream of living in, but I'm here and things are working. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mitchell. I appreciate that. And that, ladies and gents, is our panel for this evening. I do want to thank Deanna for introducing me. I completely forgot to thank you about that. Like she said, I'm Gabby Cole. I'm the executive director and co-founder at Fit and Food Connection, which is also another local St. Louis organization combating chronic disease through food access and physical exercise. So I'm going to kick our panel off with a few questions, and I think I want all of you to answer this question. So I am seeing Lacey right now. Can you share with us and our audience what made you choose the profession you're in? I know you talked about having a little bit of a different background than where you landed. So can you tell me how you made the connection?
Sure. Yeah. So as I mentioned, my my grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents were all farmers, but always very poor when it came to actual financial resources. And so my parents were like, we're going to do something different. And then they had a kid who was like, man, I really want to do farming. But realizing how much was lost in a generation because of that was really impactful to me, of having to kind of like figure this out, that it wasn't passed down to my parents, so my parents couldn't pass down to me, was really meaningful, particularly as an educator, and painful, I guess. And I know a lot of folks, other folks who've experienced that as well. But my background's in sustainability education, so I was working with a lot of adults in college settings or in work settings to learn more about sustainability issues and take action on them. And we would create discussion courses to do that. And so we did one on food, and I got to work with all of these farmers and food justice advocates. And I was just like, they are so cool. Their jobs are so cool. That's something I would love to do. And so then a few years later, the opportunity arose to apply for a job at City Greens. I already really admired City Greens' mission, that it was like from the community for the community. So that really got me excited to kind of work, instead of just educating, to actually work toward affecting some of these systems that I've seen how many people are affected by. So it's really great. I had lived, when I first moved to St. Louis 10 years ago, I was working remotely for 7 years. So also just getting to be in the community with people in my community, to like work together, to share each other's joys and sorrows, is something that's really great, and keeps you going in the work that you care about, because you have such support. So that was my background.
Oh, thank you. Very interesting. I appreciate that. We'll have more conversation about, later on, about community and what that looks like to each of you. I'm gonna pass it over to Ariana. Tell me your story. How did you get into your profession and connected as a farmer?
Yeah, so it's been a journey for me. I truly believe nothing happens by accident. Everything happens by divine choice and divine timing. So it's been about 6 years as far as my journey, as far as just the journey, but the farming just came about last year. So I guess just a little bit of background. So I went to SIUE, Edwardsville, studied exercise science kinesiology. And, I just saw the flaw in the healthcare system as I was going to school. I wanted to be an OT, occupational therapist, but I just kept seeing the same patients and the clients coming back. I used to work at Athletical Physical Therapy. But I just knew that there was a bigger picture and how to help people truly rehabilitate. So I took it upon myself to figure what that was. And well, I first changed my lifestyle. So the healing starts with self. So I transitioned to plant-based whole food vegan 2020 during the pandemic. But it was just a journey to get there. So once I realized what that was that was the answer, I started helping others to truly heal and rehabilitate their bodies and things of that sort. And then fast forward, like I said, during the pandemic, I decided to quit my job due to just the misalignment. It wasn't in alignment with my mission, being, the COVID vaccine. So I just decided to not go back to work. And I literally took a leap of faith to pursue my life work and my life's mission. So I've been on that path and on that journey for ever since. And I have my herbal medicine products. So I would do a lot of pop-ups and farmers markets. And I remember one day I met, and you all may know her, Kathleen Logan Smith. She was the executive director of Food Works, the Farmers Beginning program. We just so happened to meet at a farmers market in Fairview Heights, Illinois. Like I'm on the Illinois side, I'm not in Missouri, but so she came to my table and she was just saying, I think you would be a great fit for our Farmers Beginning program. So she said, you should register, you should apply. So I applied, I got in, I got a full ride, full scholarship, everything was paid for, books, fees, tuition, travel costs. So it's truly a blessing. And, you know, I always wanted my own land, but it was not necessarily for, it was more for selfless reasons, just to, you know, live off grid and have my own land, grow my own food. But it truly opened up my world and my perspective of it's just everything connected to it. So
Absolutely.
used to it.
I love that beautiful story. We all kind of, you know, have our own individual paths, but I truly feel that it connects us all back to each other. So I think your story and your message is very reaffirming to that and my own philosophy. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am going to go to Janet. You started to talk a little bit about your story, but give us the rest of the scoop.
Okay, so well, when I got to St. Louis, I lived in California before I came here. So in 2016, I relocated to Spanish Lake, specifically to be a real estate investor.
Oh.
So farming, it like knocked me off my, I was like, what? I did not know I was going to be a farmer, but I got here investing in real estate. And what happened was, I can remember I was doing like an eviction and the police came in and they were like, you need to take your investing dollars somewhere else. It's a horrible neighborhood, and literally try to scare me out of Spanish Lake. And I literally was like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. It's completely beautiful. So then I found this Netflix documentary called Spanish Lake, and it was literally like somebody who had moved to California from Spanish Lake coming back and telling the story of how it had just gone to, you know, deferred maintenance, and there were all of these issues around white flight and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, that's something. But at the end of that movie, they had interviewed Lottie Wade, and that's actually Quentin Ward's grandmother. And she was on the Spanish Lake Community Development Corporation. So I ended up going and just joining up. I was like, we're going to, you know, fix the neighborhood, like just thinking, oh, we can do what we can do to rebuild and, you know, really create community here. And then I think it was like 2018 or 2019, the Shop and Save closed. And
Yeah.
when that shuttered, it left us with one grocery store. And so we fell into this food, well, they call it a food desert, but we call it food apartheid because of systemic racism. When you go to low to middle income Black neighborhoods, you usually don't see grocery stores. You'll see dollar stores, liquor stores, and junk food, but no real nutrition. So that got me so angry, I decided to start growing food. I went to the Spanish Lake community and I said, hey, if we were to install a community garden on this old dilapidated property, would you help us grow food for the community? And we had 30 people sign on to help us after that meeting at the Twillman House. And then we opened Grow Spanish Lake Community Garden. So from there, we had such a great harvest of tomatoes and peppers and purple okra that we decided we were just gonna continue to grow and incorporate more growing areas. And now we have about 8 acres in Spanish Lake, and it's like literally a fully functioning farm. So I have no idea how this became my path. Definitely my path.
I love that. We are so grateful you stayed in the area. That is such a true statement for, you know, leaders of color, or that like come from, you know, specific communities and leaving if it gets scary and hard. But we really appreciate you staying in the space, staying in the neighborhood, staying in the work. Yeah, I'm excited to keep talking. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna come back to Erin. Tell me a little bit more about how you got into this profession.
So I really have always been very interested in environmentalism since like as long as I can remember. My 5th grade report, my final project was actually about the BP oil spill. So I've always been like super nerdy about the environment, but in my mind, in the way that I was educated and in the system that I grew up in, I kind of always isolated that as its own problem. Like the environment is its own thing and human problems are another thing, and they were not related. And I'm like, oh, the environment, this innocent being that exists and is being harmed by people, like I have to do something about this. So I started my career really in college as environmental science. And I wanted to go into the medical field actually, because I was thinking environmental science is its own thing and I'm just going to do help people because I want to help people. Once I got into school though, both of the same time, I realized how many of the things interlapped with each other. Things that I was learning in my environmental classes that were impacting the public health lessons that I learned. And so many connections were being made. And I realized not only is the environment harming people at like the same, if not worse rate that it's harming it, but it's by design, it's on purpose, it's systemic. And there are very clear reasons why you have to super high level in college to even know those things. I was always interested in the environment and I sought out information about the environment. I didn't learn those things until I was upper level in college. So for me, it was just like a revelation that this is something that needs to be brought to everyone. And this is something that a lot of people would genuinely care about if they actually knew what was seriously going on. So it became my mission to really and I found that, like I said earlier, I think urban farming is a really holistic approach to that. You get the public health side of it, you get the nutrition aspect of it, you get the community aspect of it, and you get the actual physical environmental piece of it. There's so much of the urban environment that it needs rehabilitation for the people, in addition to the fact that we could also be now providing them with food to nourish their bodies, as well as the environment. So that's where it comes from for me.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's great context and thinking, as we grow in our education and our work, we learn more. And so we may come into the space thinking one thing, but we end up in a completely different understanding that's more impactful, more rich, to help us better address, these issues we're facing here in the area. So I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing your story with us. All right, Mitchell, coming back to you for a little bit. Talk to me a little bit about, this is a twofold question, okay? Talk to me a little bit about, your story. I know you, but let's introduce you to the people a little bit further. And then I also want you to share with, us one reason that keeps you doing what you do as a farmer. So talk to me about your story and then tell me that part.
I grew up on a farm right outside of Wichita. I'm thinking about it, in the neighborhood, people had like outhouses.
Yeah.
They had hand pumps, wood stoves, and like a mini farm in their backyards. Those who had the smaller farms, but we had the bigger 200, 500 acre farms where they grew a lot like cattle, grain, turkeys, whatever. And growing up on the farm, we had to pick a lot of okra. So when I got a chance to go to college, I said, I will never, ever in my life pick another bushel of okra or throw another bale of hay. And guess what I did today?
Just that?
All that, yeah. But my passion played a little bit of sports, but my passion was art. I got a chance to go to the Kansas City Art Institute and live that life, and I really enjoyed it. But when I graduated, I took a job with Boeing Aircraft as a technical illustrator.
Nice.
And I hated it. It had nothing to do with art. So I quit. And, back in those days, working at Boeing Aircraft in a professional position was a big deal. They said, have you lost your mind? But I wanted to continue on my passion. So eventually I got a degree in drawing and painting. Then I got almost a master's in education. So I taught public schools, and amongst a lot of other things going on. So I taught K through 6 for about 30 years. And what I found out is that when I started in Louisville, Kentucky, one of my jobs, I had 2 schools, right? They said, we want you to design a multicultural curriculum for our schools. So I did. So what I decided to do, I looked at all the continents. And so each continent has culture. So I based the culture around food. And I'll never forget the time we were doing Mexico or the Americas. And I went to a Mexican restaurant and they gave me like a ton of food for like $30. So we had all this food in my classroom, and teachers I'd never seen before the whole time were showing up in my classroom, you know. So that got my mind to thinking. And another job I had was to follow the bus home because we were feeder schools to the Clarksdale projects. And whenever the bus would stop, I knew there was a fight on the bus. So I'd put them in my car and take them home. And when I was in the projects, it was like, okay, this is not a way to live. The little grocery store they had, that was pig food for us. That's what we were fed to the pigs. So I started a 4-H club and a little garden there. We had a lot of fun, and we went to the, I know this is a long story, but
No,
we
take
went to
time.
the state fair, and I had an old Volvo station wagon full of kids, right? So we took them to the state fair, and word got out, and the Commissioner of Agriculture found me and made this huge deal, made me an honorary Kentucky Colonel, and they gave us like pizza for the day and all the tickets that we could use to do the rides. But what I found out was that that process of raising food, it kind of connects and reconnects people.
Yeah.
So every place I went after that, I would start some kind of a garden in the schools. So that brings me here. So when I got here, they hired me on at the Boys and Girls Club as an art teacher, right? But there was a young lady from Missouri Extension would come in with she would stop at the Whole Foods and pick up all this food and bring it. I said, "You're wasting your money. I'll bring some in and I'll work with you." So it just took off from there. So they eventually switched me from being an art teacher to having this sustainable farming program. So now we're in like 4 different districts, 3 districts, and 4 schools, and I always tell folks this, that it's insanity that we ask our communities that live below the poverty line to pay $4 a pound for a tomato. That's absolutely nuts, you know. So we need to do something like the big corporations get subsidies, right? So we can actually feed people. Because I always tell folks, you know, you can pay a farmer now, okay, or you pay a doctor later, and that will hold true forever because food is nutrition. And, you know, as building blocks for our children, they need the nutrition early on. So I kind of use all those things what motivates me is that I'm getting a chance to reach people. Like today, we had a group come out and pick food, and we split open a big cantaloupe, a 12.5 pound cantaloupe, right? So we shared and we ate it, and we just had a blast doing that. And having those kind of experience kind of knits the community together. So this is more about community building than just growing food. So that's kind of my initial story. So
no, I love that. And would you, you know, I feel like that's full circle, right? Like we talked about earlier, myself and Ariana, how you know, this health piece as it relates to food, we all have our individual journeys, but somehow we're all here. And through food, we're all connected. And so, you know, I appreciate that story. I think no matter where you are, you have a light. We have a light as people that grow food, that take care of land, and then take care of people to just find our way back to each other. So I appreciate you and all of y'all on the call today. And so I feel like you talked about this a little bit, but do you have one specific example of what keeps you doing what you do as a farmer? Is it mostly community?
Yeah, what really keeps me going doing this is when I have this fresh food and people get it, and they actually eat it. Then they'll call me or text. Oh, for example, last year we raised chickens, right? We went through the whole process, and we actually butchered them right here on the farm, you know. And I was watching some of these city dwellers. They were taking the chickens, they were treating them like pets. I said, you know, you're gonna have to turn that into food in a minute, you know. So the other day we're saying like, oh, I can feel its heartbeat, I can feel its warm body. Okay. So at the end of the day, I can see that transformation. People thinking this more like this is actually how you get food. And that evening I was getting all these texts with pictures of fried and baked chicken, you know. So I'm like, okay, they got it. So that was really a big milestone for me to see people really kind of taking a step back and appreciating the process of raising your own food and then eating it, you know, and not making it pets, you know. So that's one. There's so many different
Yeah.
aspects of this. Yeah. And meeting you all, you know, how else would I have met you all
Yeah.
except through this?
Yeah.
That's my biggest, you know, people that I would never have met in a million years. I'm meeting and making friends with and going through this this wonderful experience with.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And I feel the same. All right. So I got some more questions. I'm gonna keep going. Do we still have Ariana with us?
Yes, I was about to say I have to hop off, but I was trying to keep on.
I got one more. I got one more for you. You okay with that?
Okay.
Okay, like you can give me your shortest answer. Can you share with us a recent challenge you faced from farming? And how did you overcome it?
Mm. So is this video gonna be publicized?
It's already there. So you'll have the same names or groups. You can, try to be as, transparent and authentic as you can.
Yeah. Well, I'd say the hardest thing that I had to endure was stepping down from the farm.
Yeah.
I chose to resign. So, like I said, just kind of keeping it safe as far as namesake, but just keeping a just reminder that, even though this may seem like a gift to God, I thought this, it was a gift, but not everybody's not meant to walk alongside you.
Absolutely.
So just keeping that in mind, even though, it has all the T's and the I's are dotted, it looks great, the heart is there, but the people aren't in alignment with your. So I would say that was the hardest thing I had to go through, was to resign from. Yeah.
And stepping away from a specific space doesn't necessarily mean you have to step away from the work. I feel like you have all of us here to be a part of your journey and go through whatever steps you need to take and be like people here and things are in your space for a season and a time, and so maybe that's just what you have us here for. So please, y'all send Ariana some love and connect. She's a great person. So we can, keep this work going. It's really hard, even though it's very rewarding. And it's absolutely needed. We cannot, do this very challenging work. And like you said, things that were designed, you and Aaron said this, it was designed in a way for us to, feel this way, feel like defeated and like we need to step away, but we can't.
Right.
So we're here for you and however you need to, get back into and stay in this space.
Yes. And I feel it. It's like a tug.
Yeah.
Because you can't, if your heart is in it, you can't go far. So tugging me back, I know I have to get reconnected to it. And that's the thing for me to keep pushing is the connection, the reconnection. Not just myself, but others as well. Because we can see that the society, environment is disconnected from the natural processes of life. So getting reconnected back to the land, I truly feel like the land is the answer to all suffering. And that's what my journey revealed to me. That's the answer to reconnection with community, physical activity, to nutrition, to spirituality. It's the land. So I have to myself get reconnected back into that space because I feel that tug.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that and being vulnerable, and sharing some of your challenges, your more recent challenges, because there's so many people out there experiencing the same, you know, feelings and going through the same experience with their, you know, work and their day-to-day jobs, but knowing that, right, like burnout is real for farmers, right? Finding that alignment and being like really true to what you do is super hard in our society. And so we appreciate you. We want you to be in this work. And we hope that, you know, you continue to be in this work and reach out and let us know how we can be of support for sure.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
All
you all.
Thank you. Have a good one. I want to ask Janet that question as well. Can you share with us a recent challenge you faced from farming and how did you overcome it?
Well, I am going through a significant challenge right now.
Okay.
And so what has kind of happened with Rustic Root Sanctuary is we have kind of stepped into like meeting our community needs where they're at. So we, you know, have been building and building and building. And this year, when we went to get our farmers market, the county did not give it to us like they have the previous years. So evidently, like we have some compliance issues on the farm. And right now I'm in this space of trying to figure out like, so, and the reason this is so fresh is because today I had a meeting with like the planning and zoning and permitting and all of these different places. Well, if I were just a farmer and doing like normal things, it wouldn't be a big deal and nobody would probably even look twice.
Yeah.
But now, because we're having so many people coming through the space, suddenly our greenhouse needs to be permitted a certain way. And there's just like all of these things I didn't really know that we needed to do to be a farmer, including like make the whole property ADA compliant.
Ooh.
So, which, you know, probably would put us out of business instantly. So now I'm trying to figure out like, where is the balance? Like, how can I continue to do what I do, serve my community, and not spend $1 million to put tar all over the land and those types of things. So I got myself into a bit of a pickle.
Okay.
And I'm constantly believing in infinite possibilities. What I wasn't expecting was, as soon as I kind of shared some of the situation online, there was like an outpouring of people going, how can we help? What can we do? And recently, you know, the Spanish Lake community sent 100 emails to Cori Bush's office, the whole county council, the Missouri State Auditor, like just way above and beyond what I would have expected, but they're coming out for us. So now I still have to figure out, are we rezoning or what? But and when we talk about climate, the first thing that came up for me was political climate, because it's amazing how you can be right in the middle of getting some really phenomenal work done. And then all of a sudden your person, you know, doesn't get reelected or whatever. You're just like, oh, shoot, now, you know, now what am I going to do? I got to start over with somebody else. But I feel like when it comes to food justice and advocating for communities to have healthy, nutritious foods, like there has to be some sort of exceptions or some sort of like standard baseline where this is needed and this is the exceptions that we'll make for somebody who's like devoted their whole entire life to providing food for their community. So I guess the adventure I'm about to embark upon is like, how do we negotiate with our county or our municipalities or county government and ordinances and all of that? And, you know, I know that we're living under a system that was not necessarily set up for all of us to win. So like, how do you advocate for yourself instead of like shrinking? Because that's immediately what I felt like doing when, you know, I couldn't get my market and all of that stuff. But, and I did want to say that there is a state statute called the Right to Farm Bill. And it basically says that any farmer can farm and there's no like branch of government, and this is like on the Missouri state level, that can actually interfere with a farmer farming and selling their produce. So Yeah, so that's something that's kind of interesting, and I definitely need an attorney to like
Yes.
kind
Yes.
of go through the bill and tell me what it means, but it's a Senate bill. So there's things that I'm uncovering in this process, which is like, I feel like I'm just scratching the surface of knowing what my rights are as a Black female farmer. Like, I just can't shrink and go away. Like, I have a whole community that's watching and waiting for this food. So I'm here to fight. And like, I just feel like, whoa, County. They might have picked the wrong one. So we are having our farmers market again on Saturdays from 9 to 12. It's just I can only sell rustic root stuff for now, but that's just temporary. And we're going to keep working until somehow like there is a understanding and a meeting in the middle where we're allowed to serve our community. And it's like, I'm sorry that this community wanted all of this so much. Just kept growing into it, right?
Yeah, yeah. You know, I'm super, I don't want to say honored, but humbled to be here, because being like an ED, but also being like in the work, like a lot of us experience that, and harvesting and taking care of the land, and but then also fundraising, and then also being on panels and talking about the work, and then having to deal with your, officials is, something I always experience. And I just never shared my experience with the city of St. Louis, because that's where our farm is in the city of St. Louis. And they recently denied us just buying a tiny, like, it's not a tiny, like a lot right next to our farm. And it's like, no one's using it, just denied it. And so things like that, I'm like, it's just me. Oh, I'm just going through this. And like, I don't even want to fight it. But hearing your story is super motivation. Like, it's motivation for me. And I think at this point, I am going to like go on record and just combat this, because there was no reason for the denial. It was just, no, talk to your older person.
And I think like that's the answer too, is like if we continue to like shrink and just go away quietly when they tell us no,
Yeah.
Then people are like, where's the food? How come nobody's growing food?
Yeah.
Where are all the
Yeah.
gardens? What happened to all those farmers that were farming?
Yep.
It's like we have to take a stand somewhere and just open up and share the story and actually ask for help. Like, I've been begging, if you know anything that might help me, please, like, let me know, because I don't know what I don't know, but I do know that my community needs food. And I think it's wrong for them to say that we can't do what we're doing. So you got to stand on your square and just give it back to them and keep fighting. I mean, the worst thing possible for me would be to have to leave because I can't do what I want to do on my own land, but that's not going to happen, because we're going to keep speaking up, and we're going to keep as a collective talking about it, and we're going to keep like busting through all this nonsense until we have food sovereignty, period.
Hey, I'm with you. I'm with you, Janet. I think our next webinar or conversation should definitely be about this advocacy piece, our elected officials and the land that we should just have the right to. That should be a big conversation. So thank you for bringing that up. I'm going to keep us going, but let's stay in touch, Fran. Okay. So I want to bring Erin into the spotlight. I know you mentioned that you do more of like the operational piece, but you're also very connected to the environment, and Urban Harvest Stl does do a lot of farming. Has there been any, or have you been impacted by the increased changes in the weather? You all have various farms across the St. Louis area. And so I'm just interested in understanding a little bit from an environmental perspective, and also just kind of like, being in this like food justice space. How has the climate impacted what you all are doing at Urban Harvest Stl?
So it is definitely a unique situation being within the city limits in St. Louis City. Because 60% of USDA climate zones were actually updated for the first time since 2012, and St. Louis City was one of those climate zones. So for those who are not familiar, climate zones are how you kind of determine what you're going to grow at what times. And previously we were in 6B. So 6A, 6B are like relatively the same thing. You can kind of grow the same stuff, but now we are in 7. However, the county is still in 6B. So it goes to show you that there are climate things happening within the city that are not happening elsewhere due to the urban heat island effect. And it's actually, the urban heat island effect can increase temperatures 10 to 20 degrees within the city. And a huge problem is latent heat. So that heat is sticking to the cities and it's sticking to the roads and it's sticking to all of this concrete. So at night, the temperature doesn't drop. So you're just getting a buildup of heat over time. And when we get those heat domes, it's just like you never catch a break. So our crops have been thirsty. And getting people out there to water is difficult to do. A lot of it's by hand. So we have a lot of capacity that we can't do other stuff because we are spending so much time just trying to get everything watered. And then when we have our in-ground irrigation systems, there's always a problem with those, as every farmer knows. It's never perfect. So there's always something that you're going to be fixing. And the watering is the huge part. I mean, if you don't have your water, you don't have your crop, everything's going to be gone. So that part has been trying to find that climate resilience, and our tomato crop is coming later. Our stuff is bolting earlier. So we've had to, especially this year, because we've gone up a zone, really fully and completely reorganize the way that we do things, to the point that this year we even took a break in our programming. So we do educational programming that supports our farming work. So they are paid and compensated as salary in some regard, or they're paid a stipend if they are one of the lower intensity positions. But we just cut them off in July because it's too hot for everyone. We were canceling everything. Nobody was coming out. And so we lose all of that support in July. And that becomes now administration, volunteers. It's hard to get a volunteer to come out when it's 100 degrees and it's dangerous and it's not safe. So that has been the heat alone has been difficult to deal with. And it is unique to urban environments. And it's also, like I said, dangerous to the actual farmers, let alone our plants. So even if you could get out there and do work, you have to take a break every 15 minutes. You have to drink water. You have to make sure that you're staying cool and staying hydrated. So lots of moving pieces, especially the heat, and it has extended the season in a weird way. So being able to just capitalize on that and not have it just run you over, that's the toughest part.
It's always a work in progress. And so I know you talked a little bit earlier about the design, right? The, from the roads and the trees and the empty land is all kind of designed. I feel that, and I know that a lot of the trees and the shade has, really impacted how we grow our food in the city. So maybe, I don't know, just from your expertise as an environmentalist, how do you feel about just the design of how our city is right now?
It is better than some cities, which is hard to believe. Honestly, it is hard to believe, but Forest Park is the largest park in the country, and Forest Park Relief, or what do they call it? Forest Park Forever. Forest Park Forever has done, and Missouri Relief, they've worked together actually. So they have a partnership where they are really pushing to get canopy in the city, and it is so much worse in North St. Louis than it is in other places. Like South County is really got great canopy cover, and in the county there's great canopy cover, but as we can all suspect, above Del Mar it is much less canopy cover. Even in your parks and stuff, your parks are just grassy fields. They're not even trees in your parks. So it's definitely different there, and it is a purposeful disinvestment in those areas. These cities were designed by somebody, and somebody redlined that area, and they said, we don't want the trees up there, and that has a lasting impact. Latent heat in those areas is so much worse because there's no trees. Trees not only absorb the heat in general, but they also evapotranspirate, so they give off water. The water is cooling, so you can really even feel it. We had for a little while a little heat gun, and we would go out and measure the difference in different parts of our farm, and it would be 20-degree difference underneath the pepper plant and out in the parking lot at the same place.
When you say that, so I grew up in North St. Louis, more on the west side, and there was so many trees. And so I'm just curious, and I may have to go and do a little investigating. When did the trees come down? When did the shade trees in the area get taken down because they're not here anymore. They used to be here, but
they say it's for development. It's like more attractive to developers because they don't have to come and do that themselves, I guess. I don't really know. And also they are blaming the streets. They're saying the reason the streets are bad is because of all of the roots. And rather than just like actually keeping up with the streets like they do everywhere else, they just take the trees out.
Okay. That makes sense. And yes, I appreciate you, shedding light on that, because a lot of us do the work because it's the right thing to do. And the people, our neighbors, are, in need and come to us for the support around food accessibility and nutritious food and whole food. But there's like all these different layers, right? So like the environment and what that looks like to our food systems, but also like, how does our food systems and for fitting food, how does that impact chronic disease? How does that impact our overall health as people in specific communities? So I love looking at and understanding this topic from various lenses, and I appreciate your input.
Yeah, even from like you don't always associate floods with like hot heat climate, but that's like a lot of times where they're coming from is from the heat. And so not only is St. Louis in one of the hottest climate zones, it is also in one of the most flooded cities in the entire country, which a lot of people don't know. But the infrastructure here is so bad for runoff. And what happens is the really disgusting rivers all well up, and then this really disgusting water gets all stuck here. And that is a public health hazard for everyone who lives in the city, especially those who have immunocompromised situations. And it's also a hazard for our farms. Like if people are farming in urban areas and all of this runoff and sludgy water is getting on your farms, that's going to contaminate your soil, it's going to contaminate your crop, it's going to be hard for your workers. Like that's how we get E. coli outbreaks, is when there's a big flood and the wastewater floods onto your leafy greens and then people eat those raw. Like that's case by case almost exactly what happens. So you have to be really careful about that. And people don't think of that in a climate perspective. People like to put these all in different bubbles, but the heat is affecting the weather, is affecting the river, is affecting everything else.
Well, you all heard it from Erin. And as I experience it, I have studied it, I've researched it, and so I love your take and your input coming from an organization that really focuses on food justice, but also that environmental piece. It impacts the work we do every day, from you, from Janet to Lacey and the market. It all kind of plays a part in how we get food back out to our community. So I appreciate you for that. And I thank you for your input. I'm gonna talk with Lacey for a little bit. So I hope you had your water so you can talk a little bit with me. Talk to me, and I know you did give a really good, some good context in your family and your upbringing. Talk to me a little bit about what motivates you specifically around food justice, being a food justice advocate. And what does that look like with the work you're doing at City Greens?
Yeah, I feel like most people care about food justice in some way.
Okay.
Like a lot of it is based upon their own experience or what they've seen, but most people realize people should have food. People should have the food they want. People should have nutritious food.
Yep.
And I think that so we have a broad community of support at City Greens for people who care about, making sure people have food security, to people wanting to support local farmers, to people caring about sustainability, to people wanting to support Black farmers in general. There's a lot of people or people who like have kids and all of a sudden are like paying a lot more attention to what they're feeding their kids or what schools are or whatever, And so there's a lot of overlapping values there from a lot of people from different lived experiences and different political ideologies. So it's a really great place to start to bring community together, to find your common ground, your common interests. And that's exciting to me, how you build bridges in lots of other ways in that way. People hopefully eat multiple times a day. Food is very much connected to joy and to fun and to pleasure, as well as to identity and to culture and to, comfort. And so food can mean so many different things to us, and it's like necessary, right? So it's a really good starting place for a lot of people, and a lot of people are affected by that. We talk a lot about food insecurity or economic injustice. And a lot of our farmers are experiencing that. A lot of our farmers are on EBT because they don't make enough money to be able to like provide for their families, you know. So a lot of the people who are fighting for food justice, who are trying to solve these issues, are people who are also affected by those issues themselves. And I think that's really, really important for, I think, everyone in this work that's here today. You know, our work comes from our own experience, from our own communities. You know, that it's not like somebody coming in and being like, this is how you should do it.
Right.
Like, we're all there together.
Yeah.
So those things are really exciting to me, to get to be a part of a community. And for City Greens, you know, it's we have farmers, we have people who are starting out, who are just figuring it out for the first time. We have people who've been doing it for generations. We have urban farmers, we have rural farmers, we have folks who are doing plant-based diets, and we have folks who are raising animals.
Yeah.
We have people with really low incomes and really high incomes. So there's a very diverse group of people who are part of this, but they all get to be a part of something together, and to read themselves into the same story, and to like work toward community. And so, you know, I was thinking this a lot when Janet was talking about political climate. That's definitely something that's on my mind too.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have a almost 4-year-old, and, you know, having a background in sustainability education, a lot of the things that Erin was talking about, I know. And it was like, I was like trying to save the world. Like, how do you solve climate change? And how do you solve all these like huge issues? And it felt so overwhelming. And like, I just had this burden of knowledge. Like, if you really knew, it's terrible or whatever, you know? And becoming a parent, I really had to actually like take my circle of control, or take my focus to the circle of control I had.
Okay.
And so what influence do I have? I feel like all of us who are working in food justice, there are these huge issues, these big generational issues around food apartheid and systemic racism and oppression, and companies controlling our food supply, and all these things, pollution, and yet what we're doing is also very tangible for today, for people in our community, for specific people's livelihoods, for their well-being. And to be able, in a very uncertain political climate, in a very uncertain climate, literal climate, to be able to do what I can in my community, working with other people to make a difference, to create the world that we want to live in, to create the world that we want our children to get to be a part of, to create the world that we want our children to experience. That keeps me going. And when my candidate isn't elected, or the latest horrible environmental issue happens, or, you know, whatever it is, that I can do something very tangible for myself, for my community, for my family, for St. Louis, to make a difference, to make the world we want to live in, definitely keeps me going when it's hard to have hope otherwise.
Yeah, that's big. That's huge. I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, and my 9-year-old is a very like science guy, you know, showing me all the universes and what him and I, you know, or me and him look like in this space. And it's so tiny, right? And so I love this question because it helps us each to kind of have some self-reflection on why we're here, and how does how does our work play a part in this like bigger picture that's way beyond us. And so that is like my biggest, like, you know, hope for everyone here to take away, is that like, no matter how big or small the work you're doing, or the goals you set for your organizations, or your community, or your household, it does matter. And that's kind of why I want us to, you know, make sure like we rest and we take care of ourselves, and the things around us, whether it's the land or our stomachs or mind, so that we can continue to be a part of this fight, because it's so important. Yeah, we're laying the groundwork for the next generation, and I think we're doing a great job. So if you all haven't heard that in a while, I want you to know that. Stay with me, Lacey. I got one more question, and I'm also going to ask this question for Mitch. I know we coming up on time, but I definitely want you two to kind of talk through, and we can start with you. How can how can community farmers and food justice advocates work together to address, you know, our food issues, our food systems, you know, these larger concepts that we're addressing on a global scale. It looks different across the globe, I'm learning, but we can reel it in to the St. Louis area. How can community farmers and food justice advocates work together?
I love that question. So I feel super honored to be a part of multiple networks of people who are working to find ways to collaborate. So, you know, Empowering Thriving Communities, ETC is doing that. We've been doing that for years in different ways of finding ways that we can apply for grants together, share information with each other, support each other. The Solidarity Economy is another network here in
Yeah.
St. Louis that where people are working together to share resources. Known and Grown, which is in the process of becoming their own nonprofit, same thing, right? And so, you know, a lot of times when I get interviewed by people, like what they ask is, well, how is what you're doing unique? And my answer is always like, it's not. And I actually want to live in a world where it's not. Like that there are a lot of people who see these connections who are doing something about it. And there are people who are like coming just from their own lived experiences and figuring it out and doing something about it. There are people who went to school for it. There are people who like changed their careers later in life. All of these people, all these different backgrounds, see these connections, see how important this work is, and are working together. And I would much rather live in a world where like what I'm trying to do isn't like I'm like the only one who's trying to do it. I much rather we're all working together. And so I think when people are able to come together as collaborators, a lot of times it feels like with nonprofits in particular that you're kind of all vying for a very small piece of the pie. And so it's set up as like being competitive. But when people are able to come together as collaborators to be like, okay, my mission overlaps with your mission in this way, like how can we both work forward toward that goal that we have in common? Sharing resources, applying for grants together, sharing information, sharing tools, literally sharing tools, you know. For us, it's like, oh, you know what, we're going to be closed next week and we have like 20 pounds of grapes. Does anyone need them? You know, all of that kind of stuff. And I was actually thinking this earlier when you were talking to everyone else, like every single person that's on this panel, that's part of this, I've like personally benefited in some way, you know, like Urban Harvest has a garden at my daughter's preschool and she gets to do that. And then I get to go like and talk to them about what they know about food security and climate change. You know, Ariana's come and done events at our at City Greens, and I've gained wisdom from Mitch and Janet, like every single person, you know, like we're all working together, we're benefiting from each other. And I think that that's what people can do. And that's what I see people doing. You know, we have different people in different neighborhoods. We have different people working on particular issues, but there's so much overlap of like people wanting to make the world the place we want to live in, to make sure that people have good food, that our food is actually beneficial to the people who are doing the work and beneficial to the environment. And so I think finding that common ground and finding the ways to collaborate, you don't even have to be like, you don't have to make food justice your like career, right? You can just keep doing what you're doing and also figure out ways that you can support the people who are doing this work, uplift the work they're doing, let people know about what other people are doing. A lot of people don't even know that we have urban farmers, or like they don't even know that Black farmers are here in St. Louis. And I'm always like, oh, here, like people, you know. All these folks are doing such good work. Yes, I want you to support City Greens. We need money, we need donations, we need members. And also there's so many other people who are doing amazing things who could use your support as well. Yes, Andrea, you just said that abundance mindset. Yeah, absolutely.
It's important. It's a big philosophy of mine. Like a lot of people in these communities that are, you know, experiencing redline, racism, systemic, all of those things, have like this the opposite of abundance mindset, right? And so that they have a different relationship with money and understanding of wealth and what poverty, scarcity mindset, yes, right? Just have this different relationship with money and resources. And so that is a big message for me, and I appreciate you sharing that we all can be a part of this. I do not care for that question as well. How are you unique? What are you doing differently? We don't need to do, too much more differently. We need to, in a sense of everybody has their own like space that they're working in. We need to come together and be more collective to have a more transformational impact on our food system. So I appreciate that. Before I let you go, as we are coming up on time, I want all of you, and I'm going to start with you, Lacey, to share with our audience one way, big or small, in which they can support the work that you do. And we're going to
Come
do
shop
one.
with us.
Come shop with us.
Come shop with us. Come check us out. We have community events. We do a community meal that's free, and you can come meet other people who care about that stuff. We usually have farmers, or we have a workshop or whatever. Just come be a part of our community in whatever way you want to be. And whether that you become a City Greens member or you connect with a farmer or, whatever it is, we would love to just see you and know that we're all in this together.
Absolutely. I got to come check it out. Thank you, Lacey. It was so nice talking to you and learning a little bit more.
Thanks, Gabby.
Mitchell, I'm going to come to you. How can the audience and the St. Louis community in general support the work that you're doing?
It's a good question. I'm always trying to figure out ways to connect with people. Getting together, eating together, talking.
Yep.
Things that I kind of live by. My wife describes farming as a way of life.
Mm-hmm.
Farming is a way of life,
Yeah.
Growing up in school, early on, I was listening to like Thomas Jefferson and Patrick Henry and all that. And I really believe in the whole idea of we the people.
Mm-hmm.
This is a democracy.
Yeah.
This is, the more people come together and work together without all that nonsense.
Yeah.
The more healthier or the healthier we all are.
Mm-hmm.
And farming to me is democracy in action.
Yeah.
You get to talk, you trade ideas and learn different things and meet new people and all that. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Is that practice democracy? I mean, true democracy.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's real. And it's super important. I think we get lost in that term politically, but I definitely understand. And I think our audience definitely understand what you're saying. Thank you, Mitchell. Janet, why don't you share with the group, the audience, how we can support Rustic Root Sanctuary? Clearly, we are writing letters and we are organizing. So that's one way. How can we help?
Organizing, writing letters, but putting that aside, I think like everyone voting with their dollars and choosing to shop local, like it supports me when you go buy from Lacey or do something at Urban Harvest because it's strengthening the whole entire movement. And so for me, I just want more people to shop local, seek out your local farmers, demand better for your body. And I think that once we really start getting that, we could we could have food security everywhere if there were growers and farmers on every block. I think that if we would get there, then we could kind of obliterate the evil food supply chain that's like toxifying the entire environment and monocropping. And I don't want to say who, but toxic seeds and GMOs. I just say, let's not do that. Let's not play those games. Let's like really prioritize going and finding someone who's honoring Mother Earth by doing sustainable farming practices and that sort of thing. And I think that is how you can support all of us, how we can support the planet.
That's it. Like, right. It's like humanity in our, it's so much bigger than just like St. Louis and the work we're doing individually. We had a question or a conversation started on collectivism, but we didn't get there. We ran out of time. I really wish we could have this conversation. So I'm sure myself and the rest of ETC group will probably have a 2.0 or something so we can continue the conversation because it needs to be had. But I'm going to pass it to, I think Ariana's gone. I'm going to pass it to Aaron. tell us how we can, thank you, Janet, support Urban Harvest STL for the folks on the call.
Yeah, so I would say volunteering and just physically being there and helping with the physical work. It's hard work. It's not super fun and enticing. The volunteers like to do stuff that's cute and adorable, and I don't blame them. Moving mulch is not cute and adorable. We need people to do that though. So
Yeah.
volunteering, just being there. A volunteer hour is worth $31 in the state of
Yeah.
Missouri. So your hours go a long way.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. And I am gonna pass it back to Brittany. Again, I'm Gabby Cole. I am the executive director and co-founder at Fit and Food Connection. You can learn more about us at fitandfoodconnection.org. Thank you all the panelists and everybody that was here with us this evening. Pass it over to Brittany.
Thank you so much, Gabby. And thank you so much to our panelists. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brittany Jones. I am the Assistant Director of Clinical and Community Services for the Integrated Health Network. And on behalf of the Empowering Thriving Communities Collaborative, we want to thank you all for joining us this evening. We hope that you learned something new and found a new appreciation for our local farmers, growers, and food justice advocates. Deanna, if you don't mind pulling up that slide. If you found the webinar to be insightful and would like to learn more about ETC and how you and or your organization can be involved, please feel free to contact either me or Deanna directly. And for one more time, I'm just going to put the our emails on screen. Okay, there we are. So again, I'm Brittany Jones and Deanna Prada Perez. Please feel free to reach out to us if you would like to learn more about what we have to offer, learn more about ETC and future webinars. So until next time, please continue to plant seeds and have a good night.
Thank you. Good night. Great job, everyone.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna close it off. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.